Hello, this is Faja Asifullah from Government Degree College, Falaknuma, Hyderabad. Today we will discuss about atomic structure. It is a topic from first year semester 1 chemistry. First, what is matter? Matter is anything that has mass and possess volume. Matter exists in three physical states or physical forms: solid, liquid, and gas. Matter is made up of tiny particles or very small particles which are called atoms. According to Dalton theory, which was expressed in 1808, atoms are indivisible or the ultimate particle of matter. Means we cannot divide atoms into still smaller particles. But nearly after 80 years, in the year 1885, scientists like J.J. Thomson and his team conducted experiments in discharge tube called as discharge tube experiments. They conducted these experiments by taking different gases and found that gases under special conditions of high voltage, that is about 1000 volts or 10,000 volts, and at very low pressure, it is 0.01 mm of Hg or 10 to the power minus 2 mm of Hg, electric current passes through gases. They found that under these conditions, due to electric discharge, certain rays are passing from cathode towards anode. That means these rays are coming out of cathode and traveling towards anode. They conducted certain experiments on these rays and studied these rays, and they found that these rays consist of negatively charged particles. These particles possess a unit negative charge. They also possess kinetic energy but has negligible mass. And they found that these electrons are part of atoms of all elements. Later, they named these particles as electron. Later, further experiments conducted on discharge tube by Goldstein, and he discovered another particle of atom possessing a unit positive charge and has some mass. It was named as proton. Goldstein changed certain structure of inside the discharge tube or setup of discharge tube and found that particles or rays are coming out of anode, and these rays are also called as anode rays or canard rays. These rays consist of positive charges having the unit positive charge. In the year 1932, Chadwick discovered one more particle of atom, or which belongs to atom. This particle is electrically neutral and it possesses mass nearly equal to that of proton. Now let us see the summary of these three particles. Actually, these three particles are residing inside the atom. Means atom consists of these three particles. Therefore, they are called as subatomic particles. And later it was found that without these three particles, atom cannot be constituted. Therefore, these particles are also called as fundamental particles of atom. Therefore, these are either you can call it as subatomic particles or fundamental particles of an atom. First, let us take electron. Its symbol is E, discovered by J.J. Thomson. The mass in kilogram is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kilograms, or it can also be called as minus 28 grams. We generally consider it as zero mass, or its mass is negligible. It is a very light particle and it has unit negative charge, and the charge in coulomb of electron is minus 1.602 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs. Next is proton, symbol is P, discovered by Goldstein. The mass in kg is 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg, or minus 24 grams. We can express the mass of proton and neutron in one more unit called as AMU, or atomic mass unit. When we express the mass of proton in atomic mass unit, it is 1.0078 AMU. We take it as 1. So you should remember that 1 is the approximate mass of proton, and it can also be considered as mass number. Now, 1.0078 atomic mass unit is the exact mass of proton in atomic mass unit. The charge is 1.602 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs, or plus 1, or unit positive charge. Neutron, symbol is N, discovered by Chadwick. The mass in kg is 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg, or it will be 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 24 kg. If it is expressed in atomic mass unit, it is 1.0087 atomic mass unit. Because the mass of proton and neutron are nearly same, therefore approximate weight of these two particles, that is proton and neutron, is taken as 1. Because it is electrically neutral, the charge is 0. Therefore, we can say the mass of atom is mostly due to protons and neutrons. Now we can understand what is atomic mass unit here. Actually, one atomic mass unit is equal to the mass of atom or nuclei of 6C12, is carbon atom divided by 12. Why? Because in carbon 6C12 we have 6 protons and 6 neutrons in its nuclei and 6 electrons around its nucleus. So nucleus has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Therefore, it is divided by 12. And once again, one atomic mass unit is equal to mass of atom of 6C12 divided by 12. Now coming to the arrangement of these particles inside the atom. For that, we have to consider atomic models or atomic theories given by different scientists. Scientists were eager to know about these particles, how they are arranged, and what they do inside the atom. Now, the atomic theory or atomic model explain us about the dispersion of mass inside the atom. And there are three fundamental particles: electron, proton, and neutron. Therefore, if we know about the arrangement of these electrons, etc., inside the atom, we will be able to explain or understand the atomic model. Many scientists propose their models of atom, but few important are Thomson's model, Rutherford's model, Bohr's model, and the modern is quantum mechanical model of an atom. Let us first take Thomson's model. It is not in your syllabus, but if we want to know the Bohr's model, we have to consider Thomson's and Rutherford's model of atom, because these are step by step. First, Thomson model says that atom is like a watermelon, means it is round or spherical in shape. So atoms are generally considered as spherical spheres. Spherical in shape are like spheres. This is the most important thing from Thomson's model, which we have to remember. Next thing is the distribution of mass inside the atom. Protons and electrons, how they are distributed. He says that mass of atom is equally or uniformly distributed inside the atom, and the electrons are embedded in it. But it cannot explain, or it fails to explain, the stability of an atom. Next is Rutherford's model of atom. It is actually based on an experiment called as alpha rays scattering, or scattering of alpha particles. So what are alpha rays or alpha particles? These are nothing but the nuclei of helium. What is helium? Helium is an element, second element in the periodic table, with 2 as its atomic number and 4 as its atomic mass or mass number. Here, atom of helium consists of 2 protons, 2 electrons, and 2 neutrons. Therefore, atomic number is 2, atomic mass is 4. Now, when we remove 2 electrons from the atom of helium, we get nucleus of helium, which is generally represented as 2He4 2 plus, or H, in short, He2 plus means 2 electrons are removed, or in other words, 2 positive charges are there, or it is dipositive ion, cation. So these nuclei of helium are called alpha particles. Here we should remember only one thing to understand the experiment, that this nuclei has positive charge or charges. Now these rays, which are actually coming out from radioactive metal polonium, which is actually kept inside the lead chamber. There is a narrow opening, the rays will come out, then these rays are allowed to pass through a slit. Slit is nothing but a narrow opening. Then these are allowed to fall on or bombard on the thin gold foil. Then these rays are captured on a screen which is coated with zinc sulfide. When these rays fall on the screen will glow. As a result, we can see what is happening to the rays when they are falling on or bombarded on the gold foil. The result of these alpha rays or alpha particles is like this. Most of the rays are passing undeflected. Few rays deflect. 1 out of 20,000 will be reflected back. Out of these 3 important points, Rutherford postulated 3 important postulates or points, very important. First of all, he says that because most of the rays are passing in undeflected, the atom is hollow, nearly hollow, and the whole mass of atom is concentrated at the center of the atom. First thing you should remember, atom is spherical in shape. Then the mass of the atom is concentrated at the center. This part, central part, is called nucleus. Therefore, we can say the nucleus of an atom was discovered by Rutherford. Then the charge on the nucleus will be plus, positive charge it will have, because he says that protons are residing there in the nucleus. Then what about the electrons? And why he says like that? Because 1 out of 20,000 rays are deflected or reflected back. Means whenever the positive nuclei of helium directly come into contact with the nucleus of atom, it was reflected. When they are passing just near to that, they are deflected. And away from the nucleus, they are passing undeflected. So the third point, the important point of Rutherford's theory or model of atom is electrons revolve around the nucleus like the planet revolve around the sun. Therefore, it is also called as planetary model of an atom. Then comes the explanation of stability of atom. He fails to explain the stability of atom because according to scientific laws or principles. When a charged particle revolves around another charged particle or oppositely charged particle, it should emit energy or lose energy continuously. When this happens, here the nucleus it consists of positive charges, that is proton, and negative charges, electrons, are revolving around it. So uh, electrons will lose energy continuously, and a body losing energy continuously will become weak. As a result, the electron will come nearer to the nucleus, and there is a chance of colliding electron with nucleus or positive charges. So as a result, there will be destruction, and the bombardment due to this, the atom may destroy. Means the whole matter mass will destroy, but it is not happening in reality. Therefore, we say it is a drawback of Rutherford's theory. Next comes Bohr's theory of atom or Bohr's model of atom. But before going into Bohr's atomic model or theory, we have to consider Planck's quantum theory. Planck is scientist. He proposed a theory called as quantum theory. It is very, very important to understand this because Bohr used this or borrowed and used this in his theory or to explain the atomic structure or atomic model. According to Planck, if there are two different energy levels, E1 and E2, then if their energy are in this order, E2 is greater than E1 means second energy level has more energy than first energy level. Then there will be some difference in energy of these two levels. Then the difference in energy of these two energy levels, that is E2 and E1, will be given as in this equation E2 minus E1 is equal to delta E. Here delta refers to difference, E is energy. So difference in energy of two levels is E2 minus E1, and it will be equal to h nu. Or sometimes we can say it is equal to nh nu. And it is nothing but E2 minus E1 is equal to h nu, where small n refers to whole number and will have values 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And E1 is first energy level, E2 is second energy level, and the difference is delta E. And as I told you just now, it is equal to nh nu or h nu. Here h nu is called a photon or a quanta or packet of energy. H nu is called photon or quanta or quantity of energy, or it is also called as packet, energy packet. What is this actually? When bodies like electron absorb energy, then they will be in some other energy level. This absorption of energy is in the form of photons or quanta. Their energy depends on the product of h and nu. Therefore, we should know what is EH, nu, and small n. As I told you just now, n is whole number 0, 1, 2, 3. E is energy. H is called Planck's constant, and its value is 6.626 into 10 to the power minus 34 joules second. It is a constant, therefore the value of E or energy depends only on nu, which is nothing but frequency of the radiations which are either emitted or absorbed. Remember, H is called Planck's constant. Its value is 6.626 into 10 to the power minus 34 joules second. E is energy. Its value now depends only on the frequency of radiation, that is energy. Either it is radiated, that means emitted, or absorbed. Now remove the constant H. We get an expression in which E proportional to nu means energy is directly proportional to nu. That gives you an idea that if frequency increases, energy increases. If frequency decreases, energy decreases. For higher frequency, the energy radiated will be more. Now, this is called Planck's equation. Now, this Planck's quantum theory is used by Bohr to explain his atomic modular theory. Now, what Bohr says in his atomic modular theory, he has certain postulates. Number one, that electrons revolve around the nucleus in definite circular orbits, which are called stationary orbits. What are these stationary orbits? Actually, stationary orbits refer to those orbits in which electrons revolving will not emit or absorb energy, or they cannot radiate energy. So there is prohibition. Now, second is these circular orbits are around the nucleus and they are numbered as 1, 2, 3. N is equal to n small n, which is actually called as principal quantum number, will have values 1, 2, 3, etc. Previously we discussed n as whole number. Here it is not whole number, it is principal quantum number whose values are starting from 1, 1, 2, 3, etc. And they can be designated as k, lmn, etc. Means first orbit n is equal to 1 can be designated as k shell, energy shell, main energy shell. Orbits are also called as main energy shells or main energy levels. So n is equal to 1, k shell. N is equal to 2, second orbit or L shell, in this way. Now their energy increases as the number of orbits increases. For n is equal to 1, first orbit, its energy will be least. Next orbit will have higher energy than first orbit, and the last energy will have highest energy among all. Second thing which we should remember is electron will not radiate energy as long as they revolve in a particular orbit. They are present in particular orbit. That energy level or orbit for that electron is called its ground state. Now, electron can absorb or emit energy, but if it do so, they will jump from that orbit. If it gains energy, it will jump to higher energy level. If it loses energy, it will jump to lower energy level. If an electron present in first orbit gains energy, it may go to second energy level or third to or fourth to fifth, etc., depending upon the value of energy, which is again given by the value of h nu, photon. And the value of h nu depends on nu. So higher the energy, the electron will jump to next higher orbit. If it loses energy, that can go back to lower orbits one by one or directly to the first orbit. So this is also called as quantization of energy. This condition is called as quantization of energy. Now, by taking or assuming this Bohr rectified or overcome the defect of Rutherford's atomic theory, in which he says that energy is continuously radiated by an electron. As a result, it will come near to the nucleus, and a time may come when it may collide with the nucleus and destroying the atom. But now, because we levy down certain conditions on the radiation of energy by an electron present in a particular atom or orbit of an atom, and that condition is E is equal to h nu, n h nu, or h nu. If n is equal to 1, it will be h nu. Now, this is called quantization of energy. For n is equal to 0, the value of E will be 0. Means energy is neither radiated nor, that means the energy is neither emitted nor absorbed. So there is no change of orbit for electron. It will remain into the same orbit. If n is equal to 1, one photon or one quanta of energy is either emitted or absorbed. If it absorbs energy, it go to next higher level or to next level, or it emit energy, it will go back to the lower levels. Now, this explains the stability of atom. Means Bohr was able to explain the stability of atom. How? By quantizing or quantization of energy. What is quantization of energy? Electron will not radiate energy until and unless it remains in the same orbit or energy level or energy shell. If it do so, either it will go to higher level or to lower level. There are two conditions. If it absorbs energy, then it will go to higher level, and if it loses energy or emit energy, it go back to lower level. Another postulate of Bohr which contribute to the stability or to explain the stability of an atom is the angular momentum postulate, in which he says that the angular momentum of electron is also quantized. Here you should remember that linear momentum is mv. Any body which is in motion, especially for bodies having linear motion, the momentum or linear momentum is given by the product of mass of the body and its velocity. That is, momentum is equal to mv or m into v. But for a body who is having rotational movement or which is in rotation, what is rotation? A movement of a body around a fixed point and equal distance from that point, always, that is radius, is called circular motion, or it may also call as rotation. Now, for that body, we have to consider angular momentum. And the angular momentum of a body like electron, which is moving around a center or nucleus is given by MVR, where M is the mass of the body for electron is mass of electron, V is velocity for electron, it is velocity of electron, and radius R, it is nothing but the distance from the center of nucleus to that orbit in which a particular electron is present. So the angular momentum of electron is given by MVR, and according to Bohr, it will be equal to nh by 2 pi. So the value of angular momentum for for an electron moving in an orbit is given by nh by 2 pi, where n again will have values 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. H Planck's constant, 2 is a number, pi is also a number. So the angular momentum depends on the value of n again. So as the electron is away from the nucleus, it will have more angular momentum. So this is called quantization of angular momentum. Therefore, two postulates of Bohr's theory are very, very important to explain the stability of an atom. One is quantization of energy of electron, which is E is equal to h nu, and the other is quantization of angular momentum of electron, which is MVR is equal to nh by 2 pi. This will give you the idea how Bohr could able to explain the stability of an atom. Coming to the drawbacks of Bohr's theory, because until unless drawbacks or limitations or defects are there, we don't need further explanation or more theories to explain. Because we have one more important theory or model called as quantum mechanical model of atom. Why it is needed to explain the structure of atom or the model of an atom is because Bohr's theory has few defects. The major defects of Bohr's theory is, number one, it can explain the structure of hydrogen atom, which is the simplest one. Why? Because there is only one electron present in hydrogen atom. So the Bohr theory can explain the structure of atom of species having one electron. Maybe it is H or helium plus or lithium 2 plus, like that. So it fails to explain the structure of atom having more than one electron. Second is it fails to explain the spectrum of hydrogen. It fails to explain structure of hydrogen or hydrogen spectrum, in which we get different lines. Spectrum is nothing but the recorded energy either absorbed or emitted. Therefore, spectrum is also of two types: emission spectrum or absorption spectrum, in which we have atoms. Therefore, we get line spectrum. For atoms, our atoms give line spectrum, in which clear lines will be there. Now, these lines could not be explained. These are called spectral lines. These could not be explained by or on the basis of Bohr's theory. Third major defect of Bohr's theory is that there are two effects. One is called Stark effect, another is called Zeeman effect. Bohr's theory fails to explain both the effects, Riemann effect and Stark effect. What are these? The Stark effect is the effect observed when a spectral line is passed through electric field. Whenever spectral lines are passed through electric field, they may split into more lines. One into one line, or three lines, or five lines, or seven lines. This theory, that is Bohr's theory, fails to explain the splitting of these spectral lines in the influence of electric field. This is called Stark effect. In Riemann effect, the same spectral lines split when they are passed through magnetic field. So the splitting of magnetic splitting of spectral lines under the influence of magnetic field is called Riemann effect. Again, these lines split into one or three into five or seven lines. We can understand this by considering Sommerfeld theory. Sommerfeld theory says that there are elliptical orbits beside circular orbits around the nucleus of an atom, and he says that these elliptical orbits are nothing but sub-energy levels or suborbits. So electrons can revolve around the nucleus in more circular orbit or in these elliptical orbits. Actually, these are called as sub-energy levels, and these are designated by 1, 2, 3, 4, starting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And it can have n values, n number of values from 0 to n minus 1, and these are designated as SPDF subshells. These sub-energy levels or subshells are designated by S subshell, P subshell, D subshell, and F subshell, etc. So there should be one more quantum number, that is called azimuthal quantum number. So these will give you sub-energy levels, namely S, P, D, and F, etc. So these are also present around the nucleus. For example, for first main energy level, n is equal to 1, the value of azimuthal quantum number L will be 0. The values for L, that is azimuthal quantum number, start from 0. So there will be only one sub-level in first shell, that is named as S subshell. For second subshell, there will be two values, 0 and 1. Means the second orbit or second main energy level will have two subshells or two sub-energy levels, 0 and 1. For L is equal to 0, we call it as S sublevel. For L is equal to 1, it is P sublevel. Third orbit or third main energy level will have three subshells, S, P, and D. And the fourth will have S, P, D, F, and so on. Therefore, this theory, called as Sommerfeld theory, says that beside the Bohr circular orbit, there are elliptical orbits which are nothing but sub-energy levels in the main energy level, in which also electron can revolve around the nucleus. This gives you the idea of subshell, and also it helps us to explain the hydrogen spectrum. So let us stop here. Next lesson we will deal with quantum mechanical approach to atomic structure or atomic model, or it is also called as quantum mechanical theory. For that, we need some maths background, especially there comes differentiation called as partial differentiation. So we need some higher level knowledge of mathematics. So we will discuss quantum mechanical approach in a separate lesson or separate class. For today, it is let us stop here. Thank you.